at a time when people didn't know the value of social media pages. So we could quite literally, at this time, get a Facebook page from 0 to 1 million likes in a day.
What? I found out about you because of Social Chain,
Yeah.
but before it was Social Chain, it was Wall Park?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, it was kind of a pivot, to be fair. So Wallpark basically pivoted into Social Chain. We were trying to figure out how to market Wallpark, which was the student notice board. We stumbled across social media and these social media pages. We tried flyers, posters, and everything. And the only thing that was really effective in getting students to come was if we started building Facebook pages for students. So that's what we lent into. So
are you talking about like kind of like what Lad Bible did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Exactly.
okay. Yeah, under the Wall Park brand.
Yeah, so I was at Wallpark and I couldn't figure out how to get people to come. I tried handing out, we'd wake up at 6 a.m., hand out flyers, and no one would come to the website. And then this one day I met a guy and he'd started a Facebook page in Manchester called Manchester Students Don't Say. And the whole point was he posts things that satirically that Manchester students would never say. I wanted to try posting Wallpark on that page to see if we got traffic. I went and met him, gave him 50 quid. I said, make me admin and give me the page. He did. I posted Wallpark on it and we got like, people came for the first time ever. So I thought, very simply, I'm going to go around the world and the country and find every person I can that has a big social media page and hire them and try and take ownership of the page. At a time, this sounds like a crazy thing now, right? But at a time when people didn't know the value of social media pages. So we could quite literally, at this time, get a Facebook page from 0 to 1 million likes in a day.
What?
You'll remember back in the day when Facebook pages were going viral just on the basis of the name.
Yeah.
Because it came into your newsfeed. So if you liked a page, it would say, Jack likes, and then it would be basically a joke. It'd be like having his toes licked.
Yeah.
So they'd call a page having his toes licked because it comes up in the timeline as Jack likes having his toes licked. So people would, you know?
Yeah.
So there was viral ways of, and nobody valued Facebook pages at this time. And I thought there was something there. So I went and met all of these kids, some of which had built 20 million followers or 5 million followers or 3 million followers or whatever. And I said, look, I'll give you a job and I'll pay you every month if you give me the Facebook page. And they were like, what? Of course. And it's so funny because the other day, one of those people recounted the story, but they're recounting it in 2022. So they said, yeah, I had 3 million followers and Steve came along and offered me 500 quid. And I was like, it makes me sound like a monster. And they were like, yeah, I give him all the pages. But back then, 500 quid for 3 million followers, that's a fortune.
Yeah.
No one was going to give you that money. So I was very early and very lucky in that regard. And then
how were you funding that? How were you able to pay people this?
Because I had brands paying me to post on those pages. So I remember my first client was like Spotify through Spotify through an agency. They were giving me £1,000 or 500 quid to do posts.
Right.
At a time when a lot of these brands again didn't believe in Facebook pages, so most of them didn't have their own Facebook pages. And then I just doubled down on that, and we built this big empire of like social media channels we owned, and that became a marketing agency on one hand, a media company on the other, and then in my later years, an e-commerce company. So the majority of our revenue now is done through e-commerce.
I worked for Social Chain for a little while, and Stevie, you came to the office.
I've seen it. It looked lovely.
It's
a very different work environment. I've never seen an office like it.
Well, what do you remember from it, Stevie?
There's a slide.
Yeah.
I think there was a slide. I watched a video of you showing. It's a secret teacher showing Steve around. There was like a relaxation jungle room. It was like. Never seen anything. Yes, there's a dog there.
Pugs.
Your dog.
Many dogs.
Yeah, or French bulldogs or pugs.
Yeah, like 15 of them at one point.
There's an open bar
space.
that you could go and use whenever. There was a dartboard there.
Yeah.
Why? It's a simple answer to that. Like, no one else has been doing this, really. I don't know if you did research and saw others were. Is it to create a work environment that people are happy to be there? The complete opposite of what you saw on your first day at uni? Or was it just something that came to you and thought this is how people should be working?
Well, I think it goes back to what I said at the start, which is that I couldn't stay in any job for a long period of time. And I'm fundamentally unemployable. So I think I was trying I didn't understand why anyone would come and work for me. So you kind of overcompensate, because if you think the working world is so shitty from the experiences you've had, you overcompensate and try and make work like Disneyland. So I was like, unlimited holidays, just you decide when you come to work or not. And we went around when we first took that warehouse in Manchester and asked everybody what they wanted in the office. And someone said, oh, I want a basketball hoop. So fine. Well, someone said, oh, a slide. And someone said they wanted a bar. So we just put it all in there. And it was like overcompensating for the fact that I can't understand how anyone would work for someone else. I think that's what it was, to be completely honest. And then the other thing is just generally, I think bosses are dicks a lot of the time, so treat people how you want to be treated. And we tried really hard to do that. We had a happiness team in there, you
I
know,
remember that. Yeah.
of 4 people that we had a head of happiness, and then she had 3 happiness like assistants, and their job was just to make people happy. It was definitely like an overcompensation for something. I don't know.
Do you think, looking back now, that environment that worked?
It depends how you want to define worked, right? Because it cost a lot of money, so we didn't make as much money as we could have made. Definitely, we probably like first couple of years we were like breaking even. I think one year made a loss. But we were doing big numbers, like tens of millions. But we were spending too much on things that other companies in our space didn't bother to spend on. And I think it generally works. I think it generally works. There's probably a middle ground. We were probably a bit extreme at times.
Do you feel that the people that you employed, because I felt I was only in the office once or twice a month, I felt everyone loved being there, and I felt everyone showed you and Dom respect. I don't know if you feel differently, but were people taking the piss? Like, you say you can come in and do what you want.
Yeah, people generally were like really nice to me and had a lot of respect, I think. Were people taking the piss?
You said they could have unlimited holiday, so did you find people just wouldn't rock up?
No. And I think this is the thing with trust, is it ends up going both ways. So if you like your job and you want to defend it and you want to fight for it, you don't do what I did at Late Rooms in that call center. You don't pretend to work. You don't take it for granted. And I think when employers really care about their employees, it's reciprocated. It goes back the other way. And I think we made a big effort to really care about our people. And we're all quite, this sounds like a strange word to use, but it was quite an incestuous place in the sense that most people lived with a couple of people from work as well.
Right.
So we're all kind of bonded together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have brands come to you and you promote them using these numerous pages that you've acquired. When was the first moment, and you can answer this because don't worry about coming across big-headed or whatever. What was the first big money deal you did where you were like, fucking hell, this is game-changing? For example, mine was a brand deal for £1,000. That's all it was. And I called my dad up and was like, I've just been given £1,000.
Mine would be £1,000 too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember making the deck, and I remember doing 3 packages that they could have. One of them was like £200, 500, and then 1,000, and then they went for the £1,000 package, and I was like, what? You know, that's a staggering amount of money for someone to pay you to do tweets.
Yeah.
And like 2 tweets as well. So that was a pivotal moment. And then our big breakthrough moment as a company was actually not a brand deal. The thing that really like catapulted Social Chain and also our brains into the potential was a guy in America came to us with an app called Tippy Tap. And it was like an addictive kind of, you know, back in the like Flappy Bird days.
Yeah.
It was like an addictive little mobile game app. And we had this conversation with him because he didn't have any money. So we eventually, I didn't want to do it, but Don wanted to do it. Took 50% of the revenue. We said, okay, we'll promote it for you, but we get 50% of the revenue. And we'd seen what had happened with Flappy Bird. Much of and it's happening with that Wordle now, I think.
Yeah. Well, New York Times just bought it, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah. They bought it off
Madness.
for 6 figures or something.
No,
just
a
off,
million.
oh, just off this random guy who made it for his wife.
Yeah, million.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Mad. And like much of the reason why these things become big is because of frustration. And also obviously because it's being posted directly on social media. But with Flappy Bird, the reason it became big is because people were going, oh my God, this game is so addictive. I'm going to smash my phone, whatever. So what we did back in the day, which you can't actually do now within the laws of the ASA, is we got all of our social media accounts and like some other individuals to all post at the same time saying that they were smashing their phones up and they were addicted to this thing called Tippy Tap. And we would get a phone, we would smash it, and we'd get someone to post that they just smashed their phone because they were playing this. We never posted a link to download the game ever. We never told anybody to download it. We never even told you where to download it, but that happened all at once. The game did 2 million downloads that night and it made hundreds of thousands for us. And we were like, oh, this is interesting. We can make way more money just by telling people not to download things, but convincing them that they're like, you know, from the emotional standpoint. And that was an interesting psychology experiment. You can't do that these days because you've got to write hashtag ad and all that, but
yeah,
we were slightly before then.
So interesting that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's crazy. And then that's when we also realized the power of social media and this thing we called the Thunderclap, which is when you get 50 or 100 social media accounts to say the same thing, you know, talk about the same thing at the same time. Can't do that anymore, obviously, but back in the days.
You mentioned then about getting loads of different people to post it. That included like YouTubers and creators, didn't it?
Yeah.
I probably did it.
Yeah, I imagine you would have.
Yeah, when you said it, it rings a bell, yeah.
Well, everyone copied the model after that. So after Tippy Tap, it was when we even stopped doing that in our early. I'm talking in the early years, by the way,
Mm.
Yeah.
because in our later years, we're getting paid 7 figures just for strategy. Like
Right.
and our biggest team at Socium was strategy. So it was like figuring out how a brand like Uber could do their marketing across the whole of America. And it's not tweets or even anything to do with our social media pages. It's like creating their 300-page strategy. So we started doing these like pretty naff, dodgy tweets, and then 6 years later, it was like big strategic pieces of work for like Coca-Cola and Amazon and Uber. So
Well, why do you call them dodgy tweets? Because they worked.
yeah, they were just a bit dodgy because it was a bit manipulative and a little bit, shady. I mean, the fact that you can't do that anymore within the law, so
Yeah.
it kind of points to the fact that it's kind of not being open with people. So
How much did Social Chain as a company grow over the years? Not money wise, but just like how many people did you employ at first, and then what did it become?
yeah, I mean, now there's about 1,000, over 1,000 people now. As we sit here today, there's because of the German acquisition of DS, there's about 1,300 people now. When I left, there was about 700 people, and then in the agency business, because when I in my later years, I became the CEO of the group with a guy called Wanya, so we were like co-CEOs. I was responsible of like the Western markets, and he was responsible for Germany. So I was responsible for the e-commerce company as well, and yeah, there was about 700 people then.
Have you spoken to Molly May since?
Yeah, I put a t-shirt on that said 24 hours on it and went to her event and stood there in front of the paparazzi. I don't know how people felt about that, but I didn't get cancelled.